Are we recording? I hope so. Ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, I have some troubling news for you who are in Florida. We as Floridians have always gotten some really weird stuff to happen to us. But today we've got some terrible news. I just recently found out that HB 1355 is now an active, in effect law. For those of you who don't know, who are unaware of what HB 1355 is, it is a mental health bill that would, in essence, be a very controversial extension to the Baker's Act. If anyone doesn't know what the Baker's Act is, have you ever heard the saying, "Hey, you're going to get Baker acted"? That's what it means. Now, the Baker's Act in and of itself is at times controversial. This is HB 1355, a very controversial extension to it, which to me is not good news. Now, in essence, what HB 1355 breaks down into, it extends to what the Baker's Act doesn't cover. If you are voluntarily seeking outpatient procedures for any kind of mental health disorder, like, say, depression, I believe falls under that, you could, in essence, forfeit your rights to owning a gun. This came about from an idiot out of Miami, which does not make me look any better at all as a person, because now everyone's going to think that we're either con artists or ripoffs. Rubio doesn't help this statement. He has been slimed since day one in Miami. He is not living in the same neighborhood he grew up. I guarantee you that. He is a piece of Marilito trash. Anyone who doesn't know the story behind that, there are two types of Cubans. You have the Batistas, which came over initially when Castro first took power. Then you have and the Batistas, what they were the creme de la creme. They were doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs. They were the cream of society. You couldn't get any better. They were useful. They were contributing to America. They actually helped a lot of South Miami, I think. Then you got the Marilitos, which were the dregs of society. Basically what Castro did, he opened up the mental health wards, the prisons, and told them, get the fuck out my country. Basically. And then there was the whole Bay of Pigs thing, which happened with the Batistas. May those poor souls rest in peace. What it was a failed coup d'etat that someone snitched, and the Batistas that were trying to take back Cuba were slaughtered. Thus the name Bay of Pigs. May they rest in peace. Now, I'm not saying all Marilitos are trash, but Rubio is a slimy, disgusting bastard. Just saying that outright. And this one chick who came up with HB 1355, it's highly unlikely to me that she is a Batista. Because if she is, she's probably the most disgusting Batista I've ever heard of. Now, basically, what this boils down to is a rant, yes. But it's also to get you thinking, sort of like a dose of Buckley. If anyone has ever heard of that channel, he's from Canada, from London, Toronto, I believe, is where he's from. And basically he does musical-related stuff. And an opinion-based that I can agree with on a lot of universal topics, like just common sense stuff. Like, if you don't agree with him, you're either on the opposite side of the argument with him, or you're just too stupid to not comprehend what's being said. I'm being offensive because I'm saying the truth. Now, HB 1355. Let's try to stay on topic. I have a bad habit of wandering. Let's just think about this for a moment. This was signed into action on the 28th. I did not get a letter till today, July 1st, which is when it goes into effect. Let's just discuss that in itself for a moment. Why is government doing this now? Didn't this happen back in England? Isn't this the reason why the Magna Carta came about into existence? Was because some king, whose name I cannot remember, would sign laws into effect without having his supervisors being there. He would send out a letter sent that by the time it arrived, saying that you had to be at this location by this time, and by the time that letter arrived, it was either the day of you had to be there, or like past due, or maybe insufficient time to travel. I mean, excuse me, since when are we starting this bullshit again? There's a reason the Pilgrims left. It wasn't just because of religious intolerance. There are also a lot of people who strongly opposed the government to begin with. And that's why we broke away from England in the first place. We weren't going to pay their stupid tax laws. We weren't going to be voted upon without having a say. Since when did the book 1984 become an instruction manual? Excuse me. HB 1355 throws into question the idea that with a little arm twisting, you could be Baker acted like that and forfeit your gun rights. People with mild depression could be forced to give up their gun rights. I myself do not own a gun as of yet. I plan on buying one once I have acquired enough funds to do so, because I want two guns, actually three, two of which are the same caliber, but they're two very different builds in general. And the other is a slightly larger handgun. And I am technically listed as mentally ill because I have ADHD and ADD. And I am voluntarily seeking out medications from a doctor because of this. And I have not owned a gun yet, but I intend to buy one at some point. Now, with this bill thrown on the line, this throws so many potential gun owners out the window. Rick Scott, in my opinion, is probably the most hated governor in all of Florida history. And because of that, we really need to impeach this bastard. Not only that, we need to throw into question why. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't people out there who really don't need to own a gun. I'm not saying that before anyone starts posting shit like this. What happened at Sandy Hook, yes, is a tragedy. But let's get our facts straight before anything else. He was a mentally slow person. He wasn't Down syndrome slow, but he seriously needed to be watched when he was out in public slow, you know? Now, before anyone starts throwing in the hate mail, let's get our facts straight. Sandy Hook incident, yes, it was a tragedy. And yes, that type of person should not own a gun. I'm not saying that should not be the case. What I am saying is that HB 1355 in its current form would prevent people who are honest, law-abiding citizens who don't need people supervising them around, and would throw into question their sanity. Honest, law-abiding citizens in Florida, at least 100,000 by some experts' speculations, could forfeit their gun rights as of today because of this. Now, honestly, if little Jimmy, if you catch my drift, is out jumping up and down in the street, saying, hit me, on the middle of 27, why do we have to interfere with nature's course? I mean, think about it. Yes, that's sick, I know. But seriously, there was once upon a time where if little Jimmy decided to eat paint chips and died of lead poisoning, his was no longer in the gene pool, if you know what I mean. Let's put aside all your morals for a moment and think of this logically. Now, question. Why is Japan so smart? Well, there's a little thing called Shintoism. And what Shintoism is, Shintos are basically deities. Think Native American religion, which, if any of you know of that, they have spirits, animal spirits, that either bring good or bad blessings upon the people. Shintoism is not that different in senses. They're considered deities, are considered the actual gods. And along with Shintoism, you have a lot of people following the classic religious ideal of if you do something shameful, you embarrass your family, and your ancestors from thousands of years ago, are watching you on a big plasma TV screen up in heaven. And because of this embarrassment that you do, you dishonor your family, you humiliate them. And the only way you can possibly save your family from humiliation and gain your honor back is to kill yourself. Now, once upon a time, this was a noble thing, I would like to think. Nowadays, people are doing it because they failed on tests, which is pretty sad. But getting back to the original point, those people who do that, granted, are pretty pathetic individuals for doing that just for a test or because they couldn't stick with their boyfriend or girlfriend. But it removes them from the gene pool. Because, think about it, you don't have a lot of stupid people around, you have a lot of smart people around, you make smart babies. Getting back to HB 1355, if we were to let nature take its course, you wouldn't have to deal with little Jimmy going shooting up Sandy Hook, if you know what I mean. And I think the whole Sandy Hook incident has been blown way out of proportion, and a lot of people have been taking it way too far. Now, yes, honestly, I do agree that, let's be straight up honest and use the proper terminology, mentally retarded people should not own guns. I don't disagree with that. That's why we have the Baker's Act. But when it comes to the Baker's Act to begin with, it's still controversial because a lot of honest, innocent people have been deemed crazy because of circumstances, which is pretty sad. I'm not going to continue this rant for much longer because I think I've gotten pretty much everything out of my chest, as it were, that needs to be said. Just think about it, though. We're talking about people, common folk, that are not that different from you or me, that think the same, talk the same, who talk like me. I rant. I can be annoying. I know I have a nasally voice that sounds annoying. I know that. I've heard myself recorded many a time, and I've tried at times to sing certain songs that my voice just sounds terrible. I'm not lying. But think about it. If you're just an average Joe, law-abiding citizen, dealing with a mild case of depression, you could be losing your guns without warrant, without cause other than HB 1355. It's ridiculous. That's food for thought, and I really hope you understand the point that's trying to be made here. Take care, and veto that fucking bastard of a governor of ours, Rick Scott. Peace out, YouTube.